All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of the panel discussion today is trends in educational technology. Through the course of the day today, we have heard quite a bit being discussed on the topic of education, because I think it is one of the few topics that everybody has experienced or gone through, and it also elicits a sort of an emotional response because it is so close to many of our hearts. I think Dr. Ore did an excellent job of sort of setting the stage for this discussion today. So without further ado, let me just give a very brief introduction. We all know that today's students are coming out of college, or going into college with very good knowledge of technology, how it can change not only their lives, their profession, etc., but also the whole setup that they're experiencing when they go into the job market. So technology is clearly a very integral part of the whole learning process. Is not just a thing that's at the side, helping you, but really very much of a part of the whole system. So this session is basically to sort of explore through the interactive session the various approaches and technologies and tools and processes that are available to enhance the entire learning process. We will talk, I'm sure you'll touch things like learning management systems, interactive whiteboards, simulation games, and the whole approach to the learning experience. So let me just introduce the gentleman here very quickly. The details of the biographies and the resumes are in the booklet that was distributed. So Alessio on my left, if I remember correctly, you're originally from Italy, I believe, and currently based in the US. And beside him, we have got Wael Amin, who is the CEO of IT Works. And next to him, we have Josh Squires, who is the co-founder of More Works Learning. And I should call him Dr. Squires, I believe. Okay, he studied at the University of Georgia, which I believe Dr. Ore is also from there.
Graduate advisor.
All right, very good. And then last but not least, we have got Walid Tahabsim, who is the CEO at Integrated Technology Group, a very distinguished person. I see a long list of posts that he holds, advisory posts and you're from Jordan, right? So thank you all of the honored panelists. So let me just start off asking each one of you to just present a couple of minutes on what is it your organization does and what value does it bring to the community. If you can start off the discussion. Yeah.
Thank you everybody for being here, first of all. My name is Alessio Artufo. I'll put the accent on the Italian name because everybody makes it wrong. Okay, well, I work and operate for Docebo. Docebo is a Latin word that means I will teach. We're actually a learning technology company. What we do, we have an LMS solution, and we serve organizations and educational organizations all around the globe. My role in the company is to support the company expand internationally. So one of the objectives of the company is really to reach global markets. For this, and I guess it's going to be one of the topics, we're addressing some key decisions around technology. We're going to talk about cloud, SaaS, and specific things that we're addressing that we see as drivers towards global expansions and reach of technology, in a way that we can leverage markets and enable universities and colleges to learn more efficiently with good technology tools.
My name is Wael Amin. I'm CEO of IT Works. IT Works is a learning technology company that specializes in K-12 education. We work with governments and large public school systems to enable them to take advantage of technology to improve student achievement.
My name's Josh Squires. I'm a co-founder of MoWorks Learning. Mike, that we heard earlier, is the other co-founder. Our solution is basically educational consulting services, focusing mainly around content production. And so we basically look at creative solutions in e-learning, in programming for governments, for schools, and for corporations. So one of the things that Mike talked about is we run like summer camps, we run online learning solutions, as well as digital media creation.
Good afternoon. My name is Walid Habsim. I am the president and CEO of ITG, Integrated Technology Group, a company based in Jordan. we're specialized in providing e-learning platform that covers K-12 and higher education. It's a platform because it is not only a student information system or a learning management system. We focus on providing the complete suite for all stakeholders in that domain, integrated seamlessly in one environment.
So Walid, since you're holding the mic, let me just ask you a question. From your perspective, can you just share some, in a few sort of sentences, what is the state of the whole education in this part of the world?
I believe that we are improving and moving forward, and you will be actually the problem in our region is that information and data is not available. But when you dig deep, you will find out that there are lots of success stories that have been developed. I'll give you a few examples. The first countrywide deployment for K-12 system that covers everything, learning management system, student information, education and management, decision support, has been deployed in a public education system in 2003. So we're talking almost 12 years back, okay? And that happened in Jordan. And then there were 3 other countries in the Arab world, okay, managed to do the same in a record time. Last but not least, for example, the biggest project worldwide about educational management information system has been deployed in Saudi Arabia that is covering almost 37,000 schools with a total population of over 12 million users between students, administrators, teachers, and parents. So I think in terms of the infusion of technology into the education system, we have lots of achievements, but it is not about that actually. It is about effective integration of technology into the education system. And when we talk about, there have been many talks about, we would like to see ICT into education, ICT into education. It is not about ICT into education. It is about how can we effectively, use ICT into education so that we can help the people, the individuals within that domain, okay, perform better.
Yeah, thanks, sir. I think that's very true. I think a lot of people think ICT for the sake of ICT, but really that's just a sort of a tool or a vehicle to deliver the outcome, right? Yeah. So, Josh, if you give your perspective on this topic, in terms of what do you see are the biggest challenges in terms of technology being utilized to deliver the desired outcome? Is it cost? Is it some mentality issue? What do you see that as the biggest challenge?
Well, I think the biggest challenge of technology is the concept of technology for technology's sake. So in education, you see lots of early adopters jumping on the bandwidth of technology. So I remember in 2004, you have Second Life, and that's going to revolutionize education. That's going to change how we teach, right? Well, we don't hear about that anymore. So the mobile learning, that was been the buzzword for the past 3 years. I see that as a very positive outcome, but we haven't really come up with good learning models that can actually implement mobile learning or some of these newer technologies into the actual educational curriculum. So I think the challenge that we have really is, it's not a technological challenge, it's a thought challenge. And how are we going to creatively implement this technology into our classroom, and what benefits do we want to get out of this? And so I think the caution is, not technology for technology's sake, but what is the end result we want this technology to do for our students, or what do we want our students to do, and then what tools do we provide them to support that result?
So while if just continuing that point of discussion from a K-12 perspective, that's your sort of area of speciality. Coming from, I think your background is Cairo. Are you still based in Cairo?
Yeah, we're based.
Yeah. So maybe from a Egypt perspective on K-12, what do you see as the challenges, and based on what Josh and Walid had said, what are some of your thoughts on this area?
I think what we have seen is similar to our experience in Qatar, Saudi, UAE, is that you have really a disconnect between policy and strategy makers who are looking at standardized test scores, and in their minds they wish these test scores to really go up. And how they go about this. They understand that technology has to do with that, but they don't really have a roadmap on what the next step. Do we send our teachers to get more training on Excel and Word? Do we implement multi-million-dollar platforms? Do we go and commission a huge contract to move all of our textbooks to electronics? There's really, no one has really figured out what that roadmap to application of technology is to improve those test scores. And then at the other end of that spectrum, there are students, and students like Dr. Michael was explaining earlier. Now these are 21st century learners. They are fully connected. They have all of these extreme expectations of technology. And in the middle, there is this teacher who is really just happy if the students show up for class. He's getting these directives from his policymakers that they want to see those math scores improve, those science scores, English scores improve. And at the other end, students have completely heightened expectations, and really hasn't been given the tools, right, to bridge that gap of expectations. I mean, there's Plutarch has this saying that education is more like lighting a fire than filling a bucket, right? But the tools that the teacher has is really just a water hose. So there's absolutely no way he's going to light any fires with a water hose. And you have this big gap. It's like my colleagues were pointing out, it's not really just about the use of technology. I mean, you meet parents and they say proudly, oh, my 2-year-old is able to do whatever he wants to do on an iPad. And yeah, and my 3-year-old is able to do that too. But the fact that he's able to paw his way to Angry Birds doesn't mean that he's the next Einstein, right? So it's not just the fact that people are using technology that is improving education. It's how we're contextualizing this in a way that actually prepares these guys better for the workplace and their future.
Right. Thanks for this very interesting comments. No, I'm going to show my sort of ignorance on the topic, and I'll apologize that for upfront. But seems to me that the whole field of education from this perspective, from the learning perspective, pedagogy perspective, hasn't changed. It's nothing new. I mean, I was first involved in education industry about 15 years ago, and I remember talking pretty much the same things. Right? How do you improve the whole outcomes of learnings, etc., etc. So, from your expert perspective, LSEO, could you share with us, what is really at the core? What is really is it a policy issue? Is it a skills issue, or what is it?
Well, I guess there's a sort of complexity of mixing factors that are determining issues. Certainly, also there's a cultural issues. I've been very lucky to experience different kind of scenarios in organizations, universities in different parts of the world. And if you have a workshop in terms of instructional technology in a college or K-12 organization in the United States, you'll have some perspectives. You do the same thing in Italy, and they look at you like that. They're like they have no access yet to combining education with the concept of learning technology, especially K-12 at all, while it's catching up around universities. So I guess the key factors are we need to analyze the field, we need to understand what are we based our reasoning upon, and the other thing is teachers. I mean, we need to empower teachers with better tools that are suited for their knowledge. At the end of the day, Josh was pointing out right, teachers are not pure technologists. We cannot give them overwhelming tools. And sometimes they're given these tools to build the content, and they just don't want to use it. And they want easy access to create content that can be, and I want to emphasize what Dr. Michael was saying before, that can enable collaboration. It's not about standing here as a teacher and providing even a video conference and doing a lecture and everybody's listening. You need to be able to engage students, and to do this, you need to have platforms, content that are engaging but they're not too complicated.
You had a point? Yeah.
Actually, nothing changed, to tell you the truth, in the past 20 years, including today. Because, and the main problem about this, because, we thought that because we have now super technology, super computers, and we have platforms, and we have, all that supporting the education system. We wanted to shift from, a system that we have been using for the past 100 years over one night to a new system where a computer can replace a teacher. This is not going to happen. Even if you adopt a multi-million-dollar platform in your education, K-12 education system, you have to give it time, because it is going to take lots of time to move from A to B. It's as simple as this. Now, this is from a management tool and from a learning tool and the content. Even with the content, if we have tested environments, when you bring content that is multimedia rich, for example, and you try to give it to the students, if it is not put in the right context, within this, in relationship to the textbook, and this is very important, okay, then you will have a challenge, because either you will have the teacher lost, or the student, or the parents. And in the K-12 system, the parents are extremely involved in the education, process. And this is something that needs to be taken into consideration. This is why companies who have lots of experience in that area, they try to align their content creation, their e-content, in a way how textbooks are there, but with the support of technology, so that everybody can perform in a much better time, okay? And this is a window of opportunity that we can use, because using technology, we can minimize time. The subject, the difficult subject that used to take 3 classes to understand, now I can make it in less than half an hour because of the use of technology.
One of the points that LSU mentioned was the fact that, country to country, region to region, language to language, the approaches may need to differ. So from that point of view, from based on what you said, the tools will sort of expedite the rollout of this sort of content. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, the way we teach in Jordan or in Lebanon or in Saudi Arabia, or if you go to the States, Boston or New York, is more or less the same, with technology or without technology. Now, of course, collaboration tools will somehow make the distance disappear. So today I can have a session, okay, sharing an idea with a student in a class in Boston while I am in Lebanon. And that is a very powerful thing if used properly. And that's definitely a very good use of technology in our education system.
Thank you, Walid. Let me just change the discussion on a slightly different angle. We talked a lot on social media and networking and collaboration and so on. I don't see the Twitter feed here, so that'll be interesting. Thank God. But I don't know, Josh, if you could share, what do you see, or your personal opinions on social media's role in terms of learning?
I'm a horrible person to ask this question to, because I actually am a little bit against it in a lot of ways.
It's refreshing to hear.
Well, I mean, Mike was bringing up a really good point earlier about integrating social media into education. And what I've noticed in my experience as a teacher and my experience as a content provider is students do want to keep their private lives. And integrating the Facebook or Twitter feeds or different things like this kind of creates an imposition on the students that then they have to get reminded, oh, it's time to do my homework, or it's time to do this, or it's time to do that. And so I think there is a purpose for it within education. I don't think that we've conceived of it well yet. I think it is great that teachers can make groups of students by clicking a button using different social media tools that they can then break out and talk to each other. I'm more of the fan of Web 2.0 technologies, online creation tools. My entire company is basically, without Google Docs, we would fail. So those types of tools I see having a direct impact on learning and performance. The social media aspect of things, I still see it being used basically as email, with more on-demand access. I mean, as an SMS feature or an SMS tool. So I'm gonna defer to the panel as far as other guys who actually do social media, because again, this is my perspective.
Yeah, please.
I'll take a stab at that. So I think the part of the confusion arises between social media in terms of a platform like Facebook or Twitter, and then the collaborative features inherent in social media. And I think, one of the big trends in education, and one of the big opportunities in education, is to use collaboration in a better way. And it's one of the learning models that hasn't really been exploited enough, and there is a big opportunity. And technologies, Web 2.0 technologies, enable the collaborative processes in education to happen. And it doesn't necessarily have to branch out into Twitter. So I don't need to tweet every time I do an assignment and then tweet back every time I get the grade, because that is distraction, it's a loss of control and privacy, and it has everything bad about social media. But on the positive side, I think there is a huge opportunity in using these collaborative technologies as part of the learning process, and really as a way to help students and improve achievement.
Yeah, I wanted to add a point to this. I actually represent an organization that some time ago had to make a decision whether its product would have to really open up the learning process of the students using the platform to this social media component. And we had a number of discussions with folks in the company saying, yes, let's go social media. Yes, let's build Facebook in the LMS. And others saying, well, would you want your dean or your professor to stalk you? Would you want them to know all your life? Well, and part of the audience was like, well, it doesn't really matter. I have no secrets. And others were like, yeah, I got some secrets. And it was interesting to me. So I guess the truth is social media as collaboration, as he was explaining, is great. It provides value. Social media as expanding private lives into educational paths, I'm not sure about it.
All right. Thank you for that interesting discussion on social media. Again, changing topic a little bit, and since you're holding the mic, let me ask you about digital content in Arabic. What's the status, and what can we do to improve that?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges in digital content in the region is that it's not just about finding it in Arabic, right? You need to create the cultural context. You need to have the sensitivity to the different values, which actually do vary even from country to country in the region. So this has really made it difficult to sort of take off-the-shelf content that has been developed in the West and just run it through Google Translate, if you will, and push it on the other side as Arabic content. And instead, it has triggered a large amount of investment in trying to create culturally sensitive and socially aware content that can be used in the different countries to really improve education. And one of the challenges in doing that, again, is your first reaction, your knee-jerk reaction as a policymaker is just to look at the set of textbooks that you have and say, okay, we need someone to go digitize that, right? But then obviously that really misses the entire opportunity of using and leveraging digital content, because if you just needed to move it from the textbook to the screen, you could just leave it in the textbook. So that's the state in my view.
Anyone else, any comments on Arabic? No. Before I go and ask another question, I would like to invite any questions or comments from the floor to our.
Hi, my name is Meher Qayyum. I'm a consultant on political economy issues, but I'm interested in how education will get us, to that next generation of technology and people who actually can run a business. Going back to your earlier comment about, contextualizing whatever we're going to be teaching, the next generation. What exactly do you mean by that? I know this is a entrepreneurial tech talk discussion, but now we're getting into sociology here. And I just want to be very clear on how can technology ensure that it goes past the zeros and ones into making these whatever lessons we want kids to learn or make in term, carry them into the more high level of critical thinking. What do you mean by that? Just because I'm not from here, so I might be more ignorant on this than I think.
using technology will not eliminate the fact that there is a science behind how we teach, how we conduct teaching. And technology basically help us in doing that. I'll give you a very good example, and I will go back to the content issue, all right? Today, I remember my teacher, my math professor at the university, when he was teaching us Mathematics 201, okay? When he started to do the integration, the double integration, and that complex subject, which was very difficult to understand. The guy used to come every morning with the models and the scissor in his hand. And in order, because he was a good one, in order for us to understand, he used to cut them and tell us, if you do this kind of integration, okay, or this formula, you will end up with this shape. Now, with technology, we are saving him time because now he can focus on much better issues. And with technology, we can go back to our homes and practice. And this is definitely something that we need to do. Now, going back to the science of teaching, content is only content. We don't send our kids to schools to learn the content. We send them there to get the knowledge. And content also only a tool to get to the knowledge. We have always to remember this. This is why you have multiple publishers trying to serve certain objectives within certain class. Sometimes you go deeper to a specific week within the academic year. And this is something that we need with technology now. Okay, I can focus on the learning objectives that I would like to achieve. And based on that, I can provide content in multiple formats, okay, and in multiple languages. Because if I am a kid at a school and I'm comfortable with multiple languages and I have the tool that can support me with that, then it can pick the right content for me so that I can better understand the subject that my teacher is trying to teach me. And this is something that we need always to remember. Technology will not replace how we conduct teaching. This is something that has been there. I don't think anybody is trying to reinvent that. It is only the tools that we are trying to provide so that we make the lives of everybody within that domain easier. Nothing more, nothing less.
Point about this, and it's going to be really short. I think you're perfectly right, spot on. However, there's tendencies in the market which I think we have observed, especially people that are instructional designers, content experts, that really believe that the content education, the knowledge should be king. However, there's rumor in the market of education where I call rumor whoever says that technology should drive the learning processes. And there's a plethora of learning providers that position their offering so that teachers would basically have to adapt to what these learning tools are able to do in order to teach. And I find it very wrong. Exactly, it is the exactly way around, but there's a lot of confusion generated by this kind of approach, I think. And I think you're right. Everybody should be aware that knowledge comes first.
Please. To comment on this. At the end of the day, of course, this is what I said. There is a tool that claims to replace, that is capable of replacing the teacher or even the admin within a school system. Does not exist so far, believe me. And in my humble opinion, it will never exist, okay? This is not the idea. The idea is to bring the teacher up to, and we talk about up to the new standards by giving them, more training so that they become aware. Because the challenge is not with the kids, it's with the teachers. We have to bring them up to speed because this is something too fast. My comment, my colleague, I shared this with some of my friends. My colleagues, even I'm a computer scientist. I graduated. I have programmed, like God knows how many million lines in my life. And my VP asked me, how is the forum today? I told her, I feel old. Everybody's young, everybody's fast, you know. Before the guy is finishing the statement, it's on Twitter. How do you expect a teacher to cope with that, you know? So we need to train them, we need to bring them up to speed, and we need to provide them with the tools that will enable them to perform better within the classroom. Now, in terms of, is it a teacher-centric or a student-centric or a school-centric, I think this is totally irrelevant. At the end of the day, we have targets that we would like to achieve, regardless who will deliver that.
Yes, hi. I wanted to make a comment on the use of social media in education. You guys were kind of quite against it. You'd rather more of the web-based elements. I'd like to invite the panelists and the attendees as well to attend. There are 2 sessions about social media education. Mrs. Leila is giving one in this room at 4:15 about how she's using it in her classroom, and I'm giving mine at 4:30 about how we're using it in our classroom. You will find that it will allow you to put the finger on the pulse for the things that your students need, want, and need to take care of. So if you guys would join us, we would love to share more of that discussion with you.
As I said here, I see successful businessmen speaking about education. And the question right to me, want to ask you is, why did you choose education as a start for your career? Is it because of money? Is it because of profit? And whether is still you need or you thinking to continue this career as education? Is it becoming challenging? Or no, let's say that the ocean is still blue, it's not get red yet?
Well, no, I think everybody chooses education initially because you've got a passion for it. I think if you don't truly love what you do in any career field, you're not going to do it. You know, I do think it does create it does require a certain individual to actually pursue the education industry in and of itself, because it is an extremely challenging, slow-moving, burdensome industry to work in. You know, that being said, the rewards of working in it, not even talking about financial rewards, but the visceral rewards of working with students and seeing students successfully learn, make you almost want to do it for free. You know, seeing a successful student actually solve a problem, you know, is at the end of the day why teachers are teachers. You know, it's not the awesome paycheck. You know, so the state of education, do I see myself moving forward? Yeah, I mean, this is a passion. This is a lifelong event. You know, now that being said, if, you know, I had $20 million, would I do something else? Probably. You know, I've got $20 million. I can do anything I want. But, you know, but going forward, I mean, this is definitely I mean, it is driven by passion.
I'm just going to add to this that I think everyone on this panel has gotten into this industry at a time where you had to have a passion for sort of the visceral aspects to improve the region and to improve the way our kids are going to learn and our grandchildren are going to learn. But it's also what I wanted to add was that I mean now the level of investment that is going into use of technology in education and the level of movement in this industry has really started picking up space. And in the past 3 to 5 years, there has really been a boom in terms of the number of startups in education and the amount of venture capital money and the amount of investment that is going in education. And then there is a general consensus that really this is the period of time when the internet is transforming education the way it has transformed so many industries before. So it has come a little bit later than other industries, but I think it's a very, very good time to be in this industry, and it's a very good time to be in technology and education.
Good afternoon. It seems to me from the discussion that's going on in the panel that the emphasis of technology is to overhaul the existing education system rather than overthrowing or a renaissance in education. As Dr. Michael was saying, we need a 21st century mindset in order to educate people, whereas a lot of the business that I see that are providing platforms and tools are basically involved in upgrading the existing system that we send our kids to. Would you like the panel to sort of address that point? Thank you.
good critique. Um, you know, I feel that folks here were saying that the power is on the instructions and on the way we actually structure the information in order to teach. I believe that it's very true. I also believe, though, that a disruptive approach, which is, I think is, you're calling this renaissance. In order to be disruptive, you need to bring something to the table that is new, something that has become, so popular that everybody's using it in terms of education. Now, what is not as popular, as common? I think, Josh before mentioned mobility as something that would be a nice to have. Well, for example, I want to take, mobility as a trend where I can see the next 2-3 years apply to education to support very strongly a more continuous approach to education. I really want to see universities and K-12 providing interactions over tablets and over iPhones, and I want to, I would like to see them doing that for free for students, not charging them 1 penny more. I think that could be something that brings, again, a disruptive approach to the standard models. And again, I need to take into account as a learning vendor what are we basing our conversation upon? Is this region the topic, or are we looking globally? Because if we're looking globally, then we need to analyze what's going on in Europe, what's going on in South Africa, what's going on in the United States, in the Middle East. And you'll be surprised, every region has got a kind of a different curve of adoption regarding mobile technologies. So it's pretty difficult to establish a common pattern. However, I think this might be a trend.
I'll also take a stab at this. I think I agree with you that when you look at traditional offerings of learning management systems and student management systems and achievement management systems, I think there is this starting assumption that technology can be used to manage education, and that the best purpose for technology is to create these management systems that will manage different aspects of the educational process. And I think this is probably a view that was best suited to last century, and that now visionary companies and visionary people like, for example, the Khan Academy are looking at this and are thinking, let's forget about management and start looking at enablement, empowerment, improvement, and developing learning enablement platforms and student achievement improvement platforms, and spending less time worrying about how to manage education through technology, but instead looking at how to enable, empower teachers and students and to do a better job at what they already know how to.
I just make the last comment and then you.
If I'm not mistaken, the gentleman presented the session before us said that we had a problem in the 20th century in our education system. And in order to improve that, you need to fix this and then move forward. Without fixing and learning from what we have did wrong in the last century, we will not be able to move forward. So all the management tools, all the tools that we have been talking about are a must to have in order to be able to move forward. And of course, all the tools that we are talking about, they have much more into education rather than only managing the classes and moving content from one format to another. But I don't think that the panel is the right time to discuss that now.
I've been given sort of the signal. I'm just going to wrap it up by a quick comment. If each one of you could give me about 20 seconds worth of response to my question. My question is, if you had one wish that you can be granted in terms of improving the whole status of education in the region, what would that be? Assuming there's, we have got, money is not an issue, what is it a policy? Is it deployment? Is it teachers? What would that be? Let's you want to start off with that?
I had this conversation. I was recently in in Dubai, having a conversation with folks from universities in the region. And I said, what's the biggest problem that you got? What's your, how can we help you? Do you have a investment money problem? They said no. I said, okay, is it time issue? You want to implement things, you want to implement these learning programs in a very fast manner, you can find anybody? I said, no. I said, okay, what's the problem? They said, the problem is the mentality. We're trying to change the mentality. People have a hard time adopting, educational technology in this kind of e-learning modality. Long-distance training is still a barrier in the minds of people. And I said, so how do we address that? And they said, well, we need to find the solutions that are, affordable, that are easy to use, and that can provide a value. That's the only way that we can break the barrier. And I found that very valuable as an insight.
I'll just say that one of the very successful strategies that we have seen used in the UK to develop the education system there was they launched a significantly well-funded initiative to build schools of the future, right? And take another stab at doing this right from the beginning, from just identifying where the school is going to be, how it's going to build, the technology is going to run in it, the qualifications of teachers that are going to join, and then how the instructional process are going to happen. And this is a program that policymakers in the region can use as a blueprint, can learn from the lessons that came out of it, and can really be implemented either on a very large scale or on a single school scale. And I think it's a good way, it's a good pathfinding method of trying to look at this problem and taking another stab at how to make it better.
So if I had the silver bullet or the first attempt of the silver bullet, I think it starts with school administrators, and then it follows directly down to teachers, and then it goes into the parents or the end users. But I think the education of school administrators, the education of teachers needs to fundamentally change. And a lot of the very good education programs have changed. Problem is you teach a teacher these awesome tools, and then you stick them in a classroom from the 1960s. And so it's almost going back to this is how do we just start over? So I think if you can get the administrators and you can get the teachers aligned and you have a clean slate, I think you can begin to start addressing the problem.
Right, thank you. Walid?
I will not be long. I totally agree with what Josh has said. It's the decision makers, the teachers that we need to spend time with in order to change their mentality so that they can accept the change that is taking place within our education system.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this very exciting and interesting discussion. Round of applause for the panelists, please. Thank you very much.